Hey everybody, Matt here for AVC and welcome back to the shop. In last week's episode, we put down this pre-cut 2-Tech 2 and it went down flawless. So this week we're going to be finishing this thing off with our AVC step and trim, as well as adding some L-Track made by our friends over at Stay Ready. This L-Track is made here in the US. We're super excited to work with them, so thanks very much, Greg, and let's get to work. The AVC step and trim consists of 5 pieces. First we have our replacement step, and this step area is reduced from the factory transit to 29 inches. And we found that this is the best kind of the happy medium between extending our available kitchen space into the doorway, as well as still leaving like a comfortable place to jump up and into the van. When that seat is back, it gives us just a shoulder width to get into the van, and so it's sized pretty darn well. The next piece that we have is the front trim, and that goes along the front of the van. And you'll see down here, there's a few cuts. We have a couple of cutouts that line up with your passenger seat, and that's so you can run wiring underneath the edge of the trim, and they can come under the seat for things like your S-bar furnace. Then if we go all the way over right by the driver's seat, we have an extra thick cutout right here, and that is for our CCP wire, or our vehicle charging wire. So we have a little bit of screw relief in, or wire relief in those. We also have holes that are pre-drilled for all of your screws, so all of your spacing is equal, nice and perfect, and you don't have to worry about measuring anything. The next piece of trim miters in with that front piece, and it's our Z trim. We call it the Z, but it goes over the top of our step, and it's just a welded 3-piece design. It has one funny little angle here, and that's for right here at the back of the passenger door, and we'll grab a highlight when we insert that, but it's just a nice little detail to finish out that van over there. The last piece of trim is our rear trim. Rear trim is cut, welded, and bent. All of this stuff is made right here in Colorado, and this one fits out the back of the van just perfect. It's a little tall so that it hides any extra space you might have there at the back of the van. So if you're doing something funny with like foam and wood, like our insulated subfloor system, this is going to hide that soft edge of the foam and keep it nice and protected. The last piece of the kit is our spare tire drop cap, and this just goes over the top where you can crank down the spare tire, and that's so you can always have access to that. There's a couple of fun features on the back. There's a Colorado symbol because it's made here in Colorado. It has a little poem written around the outside if you can read it. Some prints are a little bit crisper than others. And then there's one little notch cut here in the side, and that's so you can take your transit key, you can stick it in the edge of that and actually lift it out of the space, so you always have the tool to remove that cap to drop your spare tire. With those details out of the way, let's get this stuff out of the way, get our step prepped and ready for install. We're gonna start with our step up here at the front of the van, and classically we've screwed these down. Lately we've started to just glue them down, and we do a few dots of glue on here. We don't need to go super aggressive, but that way we don't have any leak points, we don't have another fastener in the system. It's just a little bit cleaner look. So let's go ahead and wipe this thing down with isopropyl and dry fit our step. With our step area prepped, we're just going to go ahead and drop our AVC step into place. Make sure everything fits the way we want it to. We always want to dry fit everything, make sure there's no surprises before we get the glue in. Okay, so we'll put the step in. We'll go ahead and put down our Z trim. Boom, into place. And then slide down in. Just like that. Cool. Okay. So that fits just right. And today we're going to be installing this with 740 UV. This is primarily a sealant and less of an adhesive, but it still does adhesive stuff. Honestly, if you just had some silicone at home, silicone 2 is going to work just fine for this application. Let's just not go too crazy. So we'll make a couple of dots here. And I've already wiped the bottom of my step down with ISO, so I'm ready to just go ahead and drop this in. Cool. And this front lip is going to hang over the front of your step. So if you have a little gap between your flooring and your step situation, that's totally fine. We just want to make sure it's pressed tight and pressed back into the back of the van as far as we can. Now we're going to take our Z trim, and we're going to get it into this back corner here. And lock it in. Make sure we're nice and tight to the back, and then we just use some black screws and screw this thing down. So we got some screws, and we're just going to make sure our trim is locked back and tight into this step here, and then we can go ahead and sink these in. Okay. With our Z trim in place over the top of the step, we can install our front trim. The main thing we want to do is just pay attention to this miter at the very front. I like to get everything lined up and looking as clean as possible. So I'll start with that front corner. Only 4 screws in the front of this trim, so now the front half of the van is done. We can go ahead to the back of the van and get that rear trim installed. So same thing here at the back of the van. We just go ahead and throw our rear trim right on there. And just screws down. The last install of our trim and step is going to be popping in your spare tire cap cover. So that's just a press fit. It just presses down in there, give it some good pressure so it locks in. With our step and trim complete, we're ready to move on to our next install for the day. And that's going to be installing our L-Track. So this L-Track is made by Stay Ready, and they've designed it to our specifications. So we specifically put the holes and everything in here so that it fits in the Transit, misses our hardened steel frame rails, and we don't have a bunch of extra hardware that we don't need for the install. So this L-Track is ready to go right out of the box. It's 46 inches long, and it comes with 2 aluminum machine darts. Now, I like these darts a lot because they're super durable compared to some of that plastic stuff you find online. And they fit perfectly inside the end. All the anodizing is matched exactly the same, and it looks super clean when it's installed. All the holes here are going to miss our frame rails, so all we have to do is pop it in the van, and then use our included hardware to through bolt it. Now, you will have to drill some pilot holes through the van itself, so let's go ahead and get the drill and get to work. Our first step to installing this L-Track is going to be match drilling the bottom of the van. But before we do that, we want to put a shim in the bottom of this opening here. And unfortunately, the only thing I have around the shop is this Baltic birch. So this whole floor system is a synthetic material. So it kind of kills me to put some birch in here, but this is all we have, so this is what we're going to do. It's never been a problem in the past. But we're going to go ahead and place this half-inch shim in this hole. Okay? And that way, when we put our L-Track in here, we're not going to over-compress, and it's going to give something for our darts to screw into so it can hold the trim edges in. So our piece of plywood is in there. We're going to go ahead and put our darts in our L-Track, and then we're just going to press fit this into the hole. It's going to be a bit of a tight fit in this floor, but it's going to work. So I started with one. I put the dart all the way to the driver's side. Then as I'm pressing everything in, I can put this last dart in and push it into place. I'm going to grab a mallet and pop it down all the way. Our L-Track is press fit in, and now we can just match drill the 5 holes through the center here. So our spacing between L-Track and our van is 45 inches. The back section is about 10 inches off the back of the van, which means this one's about 55 inches inside the back of the van. On an extended gas tank, we don't have any issues. But if you're going to move this L-Track further forward towards the front of the van, this hole right here is going to be over the top of your gas tank. So just make sure you have a drill stop set up so you don't drill too far. You can still bolt in there. You can actually get to the hardware over the top of the tank. Just don't send that thing home super deep. We're going to use a 1/4 inch drill bit. We're going to go ahead and pilot all of these holes. We're going to pull everything out, and then we're going to prime them up after the fact. Okay. So go ahead, vacuum this up, and we'll get some primer on these bare metal holes. That's our front section of L-Track drilled out. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for the back, and we'll start bolting it in. Included in your kit are going to be 5 1/4-20 stainless steel bolts, washers, and nuts. We also include some anti-seize here, so go ahead and put some anti-seize on that bolt. That way you don't get any galling, and just put that on there before you drop it through. Okay. Then we can get our washers and nylock nuts out underneath the van. We'll get this all sectioned up together. At this point, this job is done best with 2 people, so Ian is going to climb under the van with a 7/16 wrench. I'm going to stay on top with a Phillips number 3 bit. We'll get all these things tightened up. The key is just communicating, yelling back and forth to each other, and not tightening too tight. Let's get to work.
That'll do. That'll do, kid. That'll do.
Where you at? Middle? Middle? Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go.
Give me a couple more Ugga Perfect. Let's do passenger.
Passenger.
Ready?
Ready?
Ready? Good.
Ready?
Yep. Give it one more. Perfect. Passenger, ready. Keep going. There you go.
Everything is bolted in, and now we're going to put some 1-inch black screws in the darts here on the end. They're going to grab into that shim that we put underneath there, and we're going to be done with this job. With that last screw in, this job is complete. This is just episode 5 of a build series, so if you're catching us here midstream, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and follow along with the rest of this build. Don't forget to hit that like button, and we'll see you on the next episode.